going on, guys? Paul here again. Today I'm going to be showing you my predictions on a March 2013 ban list. Everyone loves doing these, so I got to do my part. Windups have been just too powerful for too long. They definitely need to be hit, so that's going to be, it's going to get a pretty big hit on this list. This is my prediction. This is not my wish list. I'm sure I'm going to be wrong in a lot of parts because Konami does, weird things and stuff, but this is a list that hopefully a lot of you will like. So I'm going to get started by showing you my forbidden, my limited, my semi-limited, and my no longer limited, and then I'll get to the explanations after. So let's get started. You got forbidden, you got these 5 cards. Like I said, I'll get to the explanations after. For limited, you have these. I think there's 12 cards. Yeah, I don't have some of these cards. Don't have any light pulsars left. So Sinister Serpent, I think that can come back. Yeah, you're probably going to want an explanation on that card. Maybe. So that's semi-limited. Got these 4 cards. That's a Hyperion. I'm sure you can tell. And no longer limited. That's Primal Seed. Since BLS is banned, I can get unlimited. Okay, so my reasonings. So here are my forbidden cards. I'll get to the BLS first. BLS is pretty obvious. It's just too splashable for how powerful it is. Say if it was like remove maybe 3 light monsters similar to Dark Arm to summon him, it would be less splashable because you would have to run a lot more light monsters and it'd have to be a more light oriented deck. So it's, I don't know, just because you can remove a light and a dark, I mean that's a Tour Guide and a Thunder King. Those cards are splashable in any deck. So Effect Veiler, Tour Guide, Sing, and Spirit Reaper, all those cards are just way too splashable, and they make BLS too powerful. I could see them not hitting this. BLS hasn't been too much of a problem this format, but putting this card to 0 would definitely slow down the format. It would hit Agents, it would hit Chaos Dragons. It's a good direction to go in my opinion. Next up is Card Destruction. If you hit this card, I mean Dark Worlds will still be a sacky deck, but this is a good card and even more than Dark Worlds. That Gishki OTK. This is a pretty good card in that deck. Like if you open this in that deck, you pretty much win. In the late game, you can deck them out easier if you're running out of, I guess, draw power. And in Dark Worlds, it's just too good. We all know this. Heavy Storm. I don't really like seeing this card go, but I feel like it's either ban heavy or limit, or even ban some cards that just I couldn't see it happen. I think heavy might be the problem. So can't really put MST to 1 because cards like Abyss Sphere and Fire Formation Tanky and just all these new cards that are being released, that MST is just too important to have in response to them. Without MST, those cards would be kind of too powerful. Even though they are too powerful, they would be even more powerful, and we don't want that. But then again, you have the whole problem that we've had pretty much forever this format with the 3 MSTs in heavy, where you don't want to set 1 because you're afraid they'll have MST, but you don't want to set 2 because you're afraid they'll have heavy. So it's always like no one really likes that, and I think it's time for heavy to go, at least for this format. Next up is Reborn. Similar to BLS, it's you can run it in every deck, and it's too powerful. It allows you to bring back big monsters, small monsters that help succeed plays. You can take your opponent's cards. I think it's an unhealthy card, and I don't think I have to explain it too much. And then Avarice. I honestly hate this card. Everyone does, but in almost every deck that everyone runs Avarice in, I'm not a fan of it. I just think it's kind of a win more card that, you would probably win. It's just like, it's too dead early game in most decks, and that's why I'm not a fan of running it in decks like Windups and stuff. But this card definitely needs to be hit because not only is it a +1, it recycles all your cards that are important, and that's just, I mean, I'm pretty sure even if you didn't draw 2 cards, this would be a really good card. On to the limiteds, Factory and Shark. Putting these two at 1 will really ruin windups. When you're thinking about what to hit in windups, you gotta think, okay, so they run 4 windups, and then they run the Factory. So they run Rabbit. Can't really hit Rabbit. Sure, it's a really good card, but like, it doesn't really help with any combos unless you have Factory. So then you got the Rat. Some people like running 2 rats in their decks. It is a really good card, but it's a card that requires some setup to be good. So rat really doesn't need to be hit either. Then you got Magician. A lot of people say don't touch anything else but Magician. Magician's the problem, but that's not true. With just like a Magician and a Rabbit, you can keep looping them. You could go Rabbit, and then you could summon Magician next turn. You could remove the Rabbit to get a Rabbit from your deck. Then you can use that Rabbit to remove the Magician. And it kind of just loops the cards over and over again. So that's, there are still a lot of combos that can be done with one Magician. I mean, it's searchable. And then, so that leads us with the Shark and the Factory. So Factory is just the dumbest card in the deck. It's, the Black Whirlwind, the Fire Fist tanky, Fire Formation tanky. It's the nutty card of the deck. With a single wind-up Rabbit, it becomes insane. And then Shark, this is definitely one of the better wind-up cards in the wind-up deck. It enables so many combos, and putting these 2 to 1 will really hurt the deck, and hopefully it won't even be a deck anymore. I'm a lover of the deck. I love the deck, but I think it's time to see it go. Time for a change in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because the game's just come to a point where it's getting kind of stale. I'd like to see some new cards. Next up is the One Day. This is mostly because it's just an unhealthy card for the game. Any deck that would run this would be a really dumb deck that we don't want. We want player interaction in this game, and this is the opposite. We just don't want this, and it's part of the Gishki OTK, which I don't know. It's not seeing too much play. We'll see how it does at YCS Miami, but hopefully it doesn't turn out to be a problem there. Next up is Divine Wind. So the Lord of Tachyon set's going to be all about wind monsters. So, and I saw this OTK on YouTube or something like that from using the new cards, and this was like pretty much how the deck won. It made this burn card. You can keep using Ancient Fairy Dragons and getting more of these, and bouncing with Birdman and stuff. It's just too good. So that's why I have it at 1. For limited monster that was banned, I have Sinister Serpent. I think it's time for it to come back to 1. It's not going to change too much. I was thinking about Magician of Faith, but I really don't want to add more spellcaster support to the Prophecy deck. I was going to do both decks, but decided not to. And yeah, so Serpent is at 1 because it's not going to do too much. I think it's time to put it to 1. Like, really just not going to do too much. Next up is Rescue Rabbit. I don't think this card has to go to 1, but in the format that will come from the Forbidden List that I have made, Dino Rabbit and Fire Fist will really become more popular because they're just not hit too much, and when the best decks of formats become worse, the less better decks become better. I think that's an easy theory to understand. Next up is Light Pulsar Dragon. First of all, Chaos Dragons are pretty darn good. But second of all, they're getting some new support. They got these like level 4 light and dark dragons that can remove one. The light one can remove a dark, and it's level 4, like 1800 attack. And when it dies, you get to search for the dark one, which can remove a light. And when it dies, you search for the light one. They both have like 1800 attack. So I don't know. That might be good for the Chaos Dragon deck, but even without it, Chaos Dragons is kind of annoying, and this would be a nice card to hit alongside with the BLS to slow down the deck. Next up is Centipede. Like I said before with the Rescue Rabbit, when the good decks get hit, that means the decks that are a little worse become better, and you don't want the next format to be just all the tier 2 decks move up. You want to see some new things in Yu-Gi-Oh! That's what I like from for Banlist. I like seeing new things, new ideas, and it's not always possible when old decks aren't hit the way they're supposed to be. Next up is Undyne and Dragoons. I really don't know if this is the way to go about hitting water, but if Konami were to hit anything, it would definitely be these two. From what I've seen in the past, they don't really like hitting the newer cards that are released because, first of all, it helps sell product if you can run 3 of the card in your deck, and second of all, when a card's just released, they want to see how it works and stuff. They don't want to just limit it right away. I don't really agree with that, but it is a solid marketing scheme. I mean, it helps them make more money, and that's what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is about for them. But yeah, hitting these 2 cards would definitely, hurt the Mermail Atlantean deck, but I think with all this support, Mermails might just be a good standalone deck on their own, and, we definitely find out if a forbidden limited list like this were to happen. And then finally, for the limited one, you get the Geargi armor. Same theory behind the Rescue Rabbit to 1, same theory behind the Centipede to 1. You just want to make sure that Geargia isn't tier 1 again, because, Yu-Gi-Oh! Will get stale if, the same decks are good over and over again. Time for a change, Alright, next up, Hyperion to 2. Same theory behind Geargi armor to 1, same theory behind, Centipede to 1, Rescue Rabbit to 1. It just, agents might become too good of a deck, and this would be a good option to slow the deck down. I was thinking about putting Hyperion to 1 and putting Earth to 3. Maybe that too, but that changes 2 cards on the list. This would only change 1. So that's my reasoning. I'm not really a big fan of putting cards to 2 on lists because I'm kind of a firm believer of it should be, unlimited or limited or banned. A card at 2 is pretty much a card at 3. They're going to be around the same draw ratios and stuff. But I've noticed that Konami likes putting when they're moving the cards up to from 1 to 2 or from 0 to 1, they like to move it up kind of one at a time to test the waters a bit, and then the next format they'll move it up from first they move it to 1 to 2, then they'll move it from 2 to 3. They like to test the waters with the format, so that's why I think Book of Moon, Ceasefire, and Scapegoat will go to 2 this format. These cards definitely could all go to 3. Some of you are probably iffy on the Ceasefire, but just think about it, like, even in the burn decks that are around, we all hate burn. I agree, I hate burn, but Ceasefire, just burn decks don't run it because, first of all, they don't run a lot of monsters, so, they have to rely on their opponent's monsters, and, I mean, there's never a lot of monsters on the board, so this isn't ever going to do much. They're just better burn cards. This is a solid card on its own, aside from the the fact that it flips cards up, so it's another reason for it to go to 2 for now. And then the Book of Moon, I could see this staying at 1, I really could, because Morphing Jar OTK is a scary deck. With Card Destruction banned, it's definitely not as scary, and it's not really a relevant deck even if Card Destruction's at 1, but it's just something to keep in mind. But yeah, Book of Moon, I could definitely see this going to 2. Removal is just, well, this isn't really the best removal, but removal in general is just is something in Yu-Gi-Oh! I really like a lot. So Scapegoat to 2, it doesn't do anything at 1, it won't do anything at 2. And Hyperion I already explained. On to number 3s, or unlimited now. You got the Grand Mole. I'm not really sure why this is at 1. I mean, in the past it was one of those annoying cards, but now we have a whole bunch more removal, like Mirror Force is at 2, Deep Prison's at 3, you got just all these new trap cards coming out, it just, more and more trap cards, you got Fiendish Chains, and this is just like the perfect answer to an Xyz monster, and even when you're trying to promote Xyz monsters like Konami is doing with their TV show and stuff, and their, all these Xyz monsters they're making, it's also good to have cards that answer them, because you don't want to make them. I'm sure you want to make them powerful and stuff, but you also need some answers to them. And I mean, even at 1, Grand Mole isn't run, but even at 3, it probably won't be run. But aside from that, it also is a good answer to Xyz monsters, and that's what you need. So yeah, that's why I put that at 3. I really don't think it'd be a problem at 1, 2, or 3. So why not keep it at 3? Spore. This is at 1, right? I'm almost positive they put this to 1. I don't know why. Just put it to 3 because you can only use Spore once per turn, so may as well put it to 3. Tsukiyomi. Just another questionable pick. Prophecy decks don't really run Tsukiyomi, but aside from that, no one's really running Tsukiyomi. Maybe as a side deck in some decks, or maybe some decks will tech one, but because it just came ultimate. But aside from that, it's just like it's not doing too much this format. You can move it up to 2, but Tsukiyomi at 2 and Tsukiyomi at 3 is the same thing, pretty much. I don't know. I could see this card moving directly to 3. And then, excuse me. And then next up is Duality. Not really sure why this went to 2 in the first place. It is a good card, but you're giving your opponent free information, so it's a balanced card, and I could see this going to 3. It's not too much of a problem. Yeah, it just helps you dig for things, but the drawback is your opponent gets to know what they are. Next up is Primal Seed. Didn't really feel like looking through my comments for a Primal Seed, so I printed one out. With BLS banned, this card's not really a problem anymore. For those of you that didn't know, there was like this OTK with BLS and Primal Seed, I'm pretty sure, where you could keep searching things with like reasoning and stuff. I don't know, it was an OTK deck. And then finally, Bottomless Trap Hole. I was thinking about Mirror Force as well, but came to the conclusion that with Heavy Storm gone, you don't want too much removal because it might just be too much of a problem to get through it all. But Bottomless going from 2 to 3 isn't a big problem. It's just, I don't really see it being a big problem. So yeah, that was the list. I know the video is kind of long, but I hope you guys stuck through with it, and if you did, thanks for watching. Stay tuned next week, where I will post my wish list as an article on the article site for Alter Reality. So until next time, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos, guys. Peace out.